Hey guys, Matt Allen here with TacticalBassin. You guys recently got to hear both Tim and I's stories of our personal bests. One thing that I think you probably all took away from that is that we both caught them on Huddleston Swimbaits. You know, back then that was hands down the best bait on the market. There are some more options now, but it is still a phenomenal bait. So we wanted to spend a little bit more time talking about that bait, how to fish it, because obviously now you know some of its potential. I've got this one tied on straight braid. Don't worry about that. That's because I just took a rod off the shelf that I'd been using for night fishing. Straight braid, no need for leader. But what I wanted to show you guys today is the three different retrieves that we use with the Huddleston. So we'll just jump into them real quick. First retrieve is just going to be that slow, steady crawl. I'm going to show you that. Basically, lob that guy out there. Nice soft cast. It'll fly forever on its own. You don't have to worry about it. Let that thing get down, hit bottom. And then all you're going to do is creep it. And I do mean creep it. I'll turn this so you can see. This is my retrieve speed. I get so many people out on the boat that we tell them, you know, throw that thing slower. Throw that thing slower. They have no idea how slow we're talking. This is not an exaggeration. This is a 5-to-1 reel. Crawling that thing on bottom. What that bait is doing is it's just down there just bumping along. The way that bait is designed, even at the slowest crawl, there's just a little bit of tail movement back there. It's enough to attract those fish, get them going. Just creep that thing along. That's all you're going to do. Anything you bump into, just kind of give it a little bump with the reel handle. Pop it up over that rock or over that wood. Just keep right on crawling. That's the primary way to throw these baits for the true giant fish. That's the #1 way to do it. That's how we do it mid-fall all the way through winter back into the spring. Just crawling that thing. It's going to take me another 2 minutes to get this thing in, so I'm going to reel it up so I can show you the next retrieve. Second retrieve, I want you for a minute to forget that you're throwing a big swim bait. All right, now this is the 8-inch, but it doesn't matter if it was the 6-inch or the 68. Does not matter at all. Try to wrap your mind around this being nothing but a spinnerbait. Throw it out there, start reeling. See how fast that retrieve is? Now when I'm throwing this way, this is typically once the water begins to warm up. And I don't see a lot of people do this. This is a way that I caught a lot of my biggest fish once other people started throwing the big baits. That slow creeping bottom, that's where a lot of those teen-sized fish come from, the true freaks. But just getting bit, catching big bass, you just want to throw that thing, reel it back. You can cover a ton of water. You can throw it right up shallow. Again, just try to pretend it's a spinnerbait, right? Throw it out there, reel it back. When you get bit at this speed, you will know that you got bit. When you're creeping bottom, once in a while they'll just crush that thing. But a lot of the time it'll just go tick. It's clear, it's a bite, but it feels like a jig bite, just a tick, that's all it is. But when you're reeling that thing, wham! They hit it, man, they hit it hard. There's no question what's going on, and then you just crack them as hard as you can. Again, I like to do this once the water warms up, or in the springtime. You know, we're getting out of winter, maybe late February into March. You start getting those warmer afternoons where you think you might be able to ditch the sweatshirt. Just go out there in that t-shirt, but it's kind of right on the limit. You can't be without that sweatshirt for very long. That's when I start fishing faster. And the way I set my speed is I want to see that bait in the water. When you see it in the water, it's just got that steady thump to it. I speed up to where it doesn't quite look right. If you're just reeling along, it's just, that tail's just back there kicking along, it's just a happy little trout. I want my trout to have a problem, to be in distress, So I speed it up just enough that that tail is going a little bit too fast. That's my speed. So on this reel, on this 5-to-1, that's about there. That's my speed. All day long. Just chuck and wind, cover water, the fish will come to you. Now the third retrieve, and this one I will tell you I do not use very often. I mean, 5% of the time maybe. But the interesting thing about this retrieve is that I've only ever had a handful of bites doing it. Just a handful. But 100% of them were over 10 pounds. Literally every single time it's worked, it's been a giant fish. What I do is if I've already made a cast and I got bit and I missed it, crawl in bottom. So I already know there's a fish there, right? But she now knows that my trout is not real, right? She already bit it, I blew it. Either she didn't eat it all the way, she grabbed the tail, maybe I wasn't quick enough, whatever it might be. I'm gonna make a follow-up cast into that exact same spot. I'm gonna start out with just that slow creep. And then partway through that cast, when I'm getting to where I think that fish is, I'm just gonna burn that handle. And then stop. Let that bait fall back to bottom. Burn that handle. Stop. Let it fall back to bottom. And then burn it back to the boat. Now what's going on there in my mind, right? I don't know their mind, but I know what's going on in my mind. That fish has already missed that bait. So it already knows something isn't right. But big bass are still territorial. So when that little trout comes back and gets into their space again, whether they want to eat it or not, they're still looking. They still know it's there. So I come in there nice and slow, just like I don't have a clue what's coming, just to get them looking at it again. When that thing takes off and then falls right back in, I mean, how many times have you seen, whether you're throwing a jerkbait along the boat or a topwater, if you're throwing a spook up on the surface, that thing's walking. Those bass, they just get dialed into it. They just start following. So when they're watching a trout just creep along and it takes off for no reason, they will just run up to it. And they run up and look. And now you've just got that thing dead on the bottom and they're just looking at it. When it takes off again, there is just something inside them that just lashes out. It's not about fooling them. It's almost like you're force feeding them. You're playing on their instinct to make them just lash out and just hammer that thing. And I'll tell you, like I said, every time I've been bit that way, it's been a fish over 10 pounds. And I think the reason for that is that the bigger they get, the more territorial they become. So the little fish, they don't respond as strongly to that because they really don't care that something is in their house, is in their way. But when you get those true giant fish, man, they don't want anything in their space. And then when it just lashes out and runs, there's nothing they can do about it. They just eat that thing. You will not get a lot of bites doing it. But I'm telling you what, if you start doing it after you miss fish, you will get some giant bites. So just again, quick review. The number one retrieve you're going to use is just that slow crawl. Number two retrieve, speed that thing up, middle of the water column, let those fish just come to you and hammer that thing. And then number three, after you've missed those bites, let that thing settle on bottom, burn it up, settle back to bottom, let it sit, give her time to look at it, burn it up. That's going to get those bites too. I hope that helps you guys. You know, so many people think that swim baits are a mystery, and they're really not. The big baits, they're a little bit intimidating, but fish eat them. That's just the way bass are wired, man. I don't care if it's a 2-pounder or a 10-pounder, they can eat that. The same fish that will eat a little 4-inch worm on a drop shot will eat an 8-inch bait if he's in a bad mood. Don't be afraid of these baits. Don't be afraid to throw them. I don't care where you live. Use those retrieves. You're going to catch more fish. If you guys enjoyed the video, give us that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends. We'll talk to you soon.
So now I'm gonna move to the outside piling. There's one. And when I hit grass, I'm popping it. And when it's like dragging something by a cat. They're not looking at the bait. When that thing rips through the grass and that thing pops up, the fish, it's just an instinct, they eat it. So I don't think they care about seeing the braid. I think that it's just something that triggers in their head. They're reacting, you're getting that bite. When you